Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right.
All right, we are going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Well, I'm going to hand it over to you for introduction.
All right. Our meeting's called to order at 12:04 p.m. Just in the interest of making sure everyone knows who's in the room, we'll go ahead and go around with introductions. If you could just briefly state your name and what community or agency you are with. Quan McLaurin, I'm the CAC liaison with the HRPDC, HRTPO.
With Hampton.
Yes.
Travis Davidson with Norfolk.
Thank you.
Sorry, Joanne.
I didn't know it was coming this week. I know. Joanne Short from the Planning Council.
Hi, Will Webb from Suffolk.
Valika Gatlin, Oldham University.
And then we'll go back to
Joe
you, Joe.
Turner, HRPDC, TPO.
Justania Clark, I'm the manager for City of Norfolk Department of Transportation.
I'm Ashley Blue, City of Norfolk, Transportation Plan.
Hi, Kyle Gilmer, City of Norfolk Department of Transportation.
Kristen Belfield, WSP supporting City of Norfolk.
Sam Belfield, HRTPO.
Matt Papaz, HRPDC, HRTPO.
Jessica Evans, associate.
Dave Nasca, retired military, Virginia Beach. Thank you for inviting me.
Frank Trujillo, Newport News. Gus Maxwell, Hampton Roads Transit.
Tony Gibson, HR TAC. Jim Partain, Chesapeake.
Keith Moore, Patton University.
Mariah W., VDOT Planning.
Okay, Wanda Vincent, VDOT Planning.
Samir Arel, VDOT Planning.
I'm Keith Nichols, I'm with the HRTPO.
Mike Davis, District Engineer for VDOT.
Elijah Ramsey, District Civil Rights Manager for VDOT.
Shelby Dell with the City of Virginia Beach.
I'm Carol Minter, I'm here with Soundscapes. Carolyn White from Pughensville, Suffolk, Virginia.
Host for the day.
Irene Harris from Suffolk, Virginia, Puget section.
Daniel Obiemi, Yorktown, and Winterberry and Bend.
Hello everyone, I'm Bob Crum. I'm your Executive Director of the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission and the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization. And just on behalf of our staff and our organizations, I want to thank everyone for your continued commitment to this Community Advisory Committee, for caring about our region and for the tremendous input you give us on our regional planning efforts. So thank you very much.
And Lauren Roberts-Carter, I have the honor of serving as the chair of the CAC. Okay, moving along to number 3, the approval and modification of the agenda. I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda. We are going to move item number 7, the membership approval, to after item number 9, and we're going to do a small swap of item number 10 and 11 in our agenda today. Do I have a motion? Thank you. And do I have a second? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Frank.
Okay, the agenda has been approved. Moving along to item number 4, public comment. At this time, we had not received any public comment submitted since our last CAC meeting. Is there anyone here today that would like to address the CAC? Hearing none, we are going to move on to number 5.
We are not actually.
Okay. We are going to hold off on approving minutes until we have reached our quorum today. So moving along to item number 6. We are cruising. We are going to receive a welcome from our VDOT Hampton Roads District from Mr. Michael Davis, VDOT Hampton Roads District Engineer, and Elijah Ramsey, VDOT Hampton Roads Civil Rights Manager. Turning it over to you.
We're going to tag team y'all.
All right.
Now, welcome to the district building. Hopefully, have y'all been here before? First time? No, that's good. I like to see the room used for other things than us coming in here fussing about traffic. You know. But just wanted to welcome y'all here. Kind of want to run over a little bit about the district. For some of y'all, the TPO footprint and the district footprint is a little bit different. Y'all fall underneath our footprint outside of Gloucester. That's in Fredericksburg District. For us, we stretch from Greensville County all the way to Virginia Beach, up the eastern shore to Maryland, up the peninsula, including James City County, York County, that area up there. Surrey, Sussex, those. So a little bit bigger footprint. but we rely heavily on y'all. The TPO, we're doing the bulk of the work is in the localities around here. Speaking of the work here, I've got some numbers to share with y'all. Over the past 5 years, in accordance with our 6-year plan, over the past 5 years, we've delivered over $1.3 billion worth of construction projects. That includes some HRTPO projects woven in there. The next coming 5 years, we're looking at about $7.2 billion worth of projects being delivered. That's going to include HRBT expansion projects projected in that time frame too. So a lot of work in this area. It takes a lot of coordination between us, TPO, HRTPO, the localities. We're constantly meeting with one or the other entities to make sure we got these projects moving through and listen to everyone. By the numbers on the LAP side, the local assistance program, money funnels through us, goes to the localities. We have an oversight. We're really just making sure to follow the rules. We're not out on the site inspected, more documentation. We have probably the biggest program in the state here in our district. It bounces between us and Nova district as far as the program. We have about 30% of the state's entire program is here. That's all the LAP dollars in the state. I want to say it's in the billions, and I don't have that number on top of my head, should have got it. But our program is 30-35% of the state dollars are here for that LAP local assistance program. And that's because of the localities here. Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, Suffolk, all of them, they have a great team, and they're constantly applying for a smart scale, CMAC, you name it, money's flowing through, going to them. They got a great program, but it takes a lot of collaboration there. On the other side of that, you look at VDOT. Right now, by our numbers, we have a little over $1 billion of active contracts running, not including HRBT. We have a lot of work on the VDOT side, on the locality side. If I break that apart, about $400 million in open contracts through the localities. On our side, it's about almost $1 billion in active contracts that we're working through. You see it as you drove through the interstates coming here. That's the funding source coming from HRTPO. You see a lot of cones, and that's going to continue for a while. We still have several projects in the queue coming through along 64 and some of 264. With that, when I got in this role, I came up through the ranks on the construction side, district construction engineer and a deputy. I didn't interact with this group. This is one of the first times I've interacted with the CAC. I was reading through on their website. It's interesting because y'all are the voice of the localities and people. That's good. I know we have a connection with Planizets here. I've got some new faces I hadn't seen yet. So I know we have a lot of turnover in our district, a lot of people coming in, but it keeps us fresh too. It keeps that interaction with y'all going and all. So with that, please enjoy the facilities. I don't know if they went over where the restrooms are. Straight down that hallway, turn right. Men's and women's are both there and all. But enjoy the meeting, and hopefully y'all have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Again, welcome. My name is Elijah Ramsey. I'm the District Civil Rights Manager. We actually are divided into 2 offices. We have an internal office and we have an external office. Talk a little bit about the internal office. In the internal office, we process requests for reasonable accommodations and we process complaints for internal VDOT employees. So we're making sure that we take care of the employees. The next thing that we're doing is also doing training. Make sure everybody understands the rules, understand what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. So it's very important that we have the employees focus on their safety and doing the job for the residents in this area. So it's critical that we make sure that we keep them focused on that process. The second thing we do is external, which we're doing a lot of compliance. So you see a lot of work that's going on in the HRBT, you see the express lanes, just different construction going around. We are responsible for doing compliance for those projects. And what we do is make sure those firms are treating the workers that are working on this project fairly, that they're getting paid what they should be getting paid, that they're being treated fairly. We go out and we do database interviews, we do surveys, we do training, we try to make sure that everybody is treated fairly. Another thing that we do is local assistance projects. What we have is Selena Powell on our staff. She works with all the localities to make sure that they're complying with the requirements of federal law because they are receiving federal dollars, making sure they understand the requirements, and also making sure that they are doing what they need to do. We have Mr. Naaman Slunkus in the back right there. He's our DBE advocate. He's responsible for working with small firms, making sure they have resources they need to go to. They want to try to get a contract with the state or just providing mentorship and guidance. So he does a very effective job with that as well. Damon, he wasn't here, he does all our major projects. So Damon is responsible for the HRBT with the construction there. He's responsible for the express lanes, making sure everybody's good with that project. So it keeps him very busy. Right now, I'm also covering the internal side, which is the complaints and the RAs and tools which are making positions filled. So very critical what we do. So we're in the people business. We make sure the people inside the job are taken care of, whether it's an accommodation, whether it's training, what have you. And we make sure the folks that are out there doing work, doing the projects, they're treated fairly and they're taken care of.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I'd just like to make a really quick comment. I've made this comment at some statewide conferences, and Michael and Elijah's colleagues many times look at me when I make this comment. But I'm very serious about this. We have the best VDOT construction district in all Virginia, right here in Hampton Roads. And some might say, yeah, well, that's because you work with them every day, and that's part of the reason. But I will tell you that what this VDOT construction district has done in 10 years, with almost $6 billion of construction, funded by our partners at HRPDC, from the widening of the 3 segments of I-64 to Peninsula, which is all complete, to the rebuild of the 264-64 interchange, to the widening of the 64 South Side from Greenbrier to Bowers Hill, to the construction of a widened and brand new high-rise bridge. And now, in 2027, right, Mike? The completion of the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel project.
February, right?
Yeah, the largest project. Yeah, Roger, get that? But the largest project in the history of Virginia, right? And what's really amazing about all this, and it's your money through HRTPO, the regional taxes that's doing this, they've done all of these on budget and on time. When you think about that, during COVID and everything else. So Mike and Elijah, just congratulations. I think this has really been a great partnership. It's really impressive what you guys doing.
It's good communication with localities, TJ, all. It takes a lot of communication to pull this stuff off. You see the impacts we have on the highways and complaints we get about it, but when we're done, it's going to free up a lot of congestion. It's going to help out tremendously.
Any other questions or comments for VDOT? Leah's here. As we mentioned in the modification of the agenda, we are moving number 7, so we are going to go to number 8, presentation from Keith Nichols and Teresa Brooks on the Hampton Roads congestion management process.
Good afternoon, everybody. Unfortunately, Teresa couldn't be here today, so you get me for the full presentation. So you remember we were in front of this group, I believe it was at the December meeting, coming with you with a survey we were going to do related to congestion management in our region. And so today I just wanted to share the results of that survey and also go over a couple slides on some additional work we're going to be doing here as part of our CMP. So for those of you that either don't remember from December or are new to the committee, I just want to go very briefly over what the CMP is. This is a process we do about every 5 years when we look at our regional roadway network and we look at the congestion levels throughout our region. We try to identify some of those causes of congestion and then also look at different mitigation strategies in terms of ways that we can improve congestion in our region. All large areas are required to have one, so like I said, we have one we update every 5 years, and the reason we do that is because it matches the LRTP cycle that was just recently approved here over the last month. These are the sections that we are including in this update. Part 1 that we completed last year primarily was looking at the data. So looking at where is the congestion occurring in our region, what are, for example, some of the speeds on the roadways, where is travel time reliability an issue, freight delays, things like that. So we gathered all that data in part 1. One of the big reasons for that is all of that data is included as part of the prioritization process we do as part of our LRTP. So we needed to make sure we had all that done so we could feed it to Dale's team as she prioritized all the projects that you saw that were part of the 2050. So right now what we're working on is part 2, which is the remainder of it. So taking all that data, figuring out what are some ways that we can improve congestion at some of these locations based on the data. But the thing I primarily want to talk to you today about is number 7, which is the CMP survey that we recently completed. We wanted to reach out to the public and see what their thoughts were on different aspects of congestion in our region, whether it was just kind of general questions regarding their thoughts on congestion, or also specific issues such as this location is congested, here's the reasons why I think it is. So as I mentioned, we met with this group back in 2005 with the draft survey, and we were very glad to get all your feedback on that, and we incorporated that into the full survey that went out. We went live with the survey in January 20th, and it ended up being open for about 2 months. And we did get pretty good feedback as far as we're concerned. About a little over 1,100 participants took part in the survey. Part of that was we did do a pretty good media campaign as part of that, so thank to Matt and Joe and their team to help get the word out on our survey. We used different social media channels, Facebook ads, things like that, did dedicated emails that we sent out for people to take the survey. Also used Nextdoor. I did an interview with Channel 3 that got out there, so that helped with it. And then also we got great regional stakeholder support as part of this. So almost every city, county in our region included the survey as part of their social media channels, from the urban areas all the way out. Isle of Wight County, I think Southampton might be on there, things like that. So it was definitely great having all the cooperation from our localities in our region to get the word out. And like I said, I think we got pretty good feedback, or pretty good response to our survey. So I'll go quickly over the results now. The very first one, we wanted sort of a softball question at the beginning, just to get everybody warmed up, and it's just merely, in your opinion, does Hampton roads have too much roadway congestion? So 95%. So it's not a surprise that people would fill out a survey on congestion and think there's congestion in our region. But like I said, just wanted a softball to start with. We wanted to know what their primary travel methods were. So once again, for a congestion survey, not a surprise that most people that took the survey primarily drive during the week. We did get quite a few that represent people who walk regularly or bike, use carpools, things like that. But no surprise, predominantly driving was the response we got to our survey. This is where it got a little more surprising to me, I guess. And what we had is we had different impacts from congestion, and we asked users to rank their top 3. So the percentages that you see here are if the respondent included that particular response in their top 3. My guess would have been longer travel times, taking longer to get from A to B would be the highest, but actually it was unpredictable travel times. So it wasn't that it takes longer to get there, but you don't know how long it'll take to get there. And so almost 80% of respondents said that was one of the biggest issues with congestion in our region, was how unpredictable travel times are. Number 2 was longer travel time, so once again, no surprise there. Number 3, maybe that surprised me a little bit too, was the safety aspect of it. So nearly half put in their top 3 that the additional issues related to crashes and safety due to congestion was one of their top concerns. You can see the other ones that ranked below there, such as quality of life, vehicle wear and tear, emissions was actually top 3 and only 7%, fuel consumption, and issues related to trucking and deliveries only got 1% of the top 3. So, like I said, it was interesting to us to see that unpredictable travel times ranked so high on this list. We asked 2 questions related to the time it takes them for their commute. One, how long does your commute normally take for you, presumably during congested conditions? And if there wasn't congestion, how long would you think your commute would take then? So you can see on the first question, which is how long it typically takes, we got 46% of the respondents, and if you take out work from home and those that do not apply, which generally I think would be retired people, people not currently with a job at that time. If you look at that, it's well over half that said over 30 minutes is how long their commute takes because of congestion. But if you look at, if there was no congestion, it drops way down. 11 to 20 minutes was the most popular bin that they used for that, followed by 21 to 30. So you can definitely see that skew the congestion costs in terms of the length of the commute here, according to survey respondents. Another question we asked is it regards congestion solutions. So we gave them a menu of different types of solutions and how they consider that in terms of a congestion solution. So we essentially it was a scale from 1 to 5. 1 was not at all important, with 5 being the very most important. So what ranked at the highest also surprised me a little bit, and that's traffic management strategies. So think stoplights, maybe coordination of traffic signals, things along those lines. Those would be the types of traffic management strategies. And actually, 85% thought that that was either important or very important. Only 6% thought that it wasn't. So you compare that to the one below that, which is major infrastructure improvements, the road, road projects we have around here like HRTPO. It actually ranked higher than that. So that did surprise us a little bit as well. Major infrastructure improvements was also very popular, with 80% thinking it's important or very important and 10% not. But not as high as the traffic management strategies. So that was interesting that that's scored that way. Work your way down. If you get to around land use center planning, so that's improving how we build our cities so that trips can be shorter, you don't need to take as many trips. That one was roughly neutral, with about 40% to not important and 40% saying important or very important. Get down to the bottom, alternate modes was down there, but innovative technologies. So when you start thinking of driverless vehicles and things like that, currently that was not at the top of the list for most of the people that responded to our survey, with only 19% saying either important or very important. So that surprised me a little bit as well as an engineer, I guess. I would have thought driverless vehicles and all the promises that come with that would have ranked higher, but not according to survey respondents that we saw on that. We wanted to see where the survey respondents lived and where they worked, just to see if we got a good response from across the region, and I think we did pretty good. When you look at the home zip code, Virginia Beach was the highest, but only at 17%. And you can see from there all the cities and counties in our region. Well, it's pretty good representation. When we look at where people work, Norfolk ranked particularly high. Not sure why that ranked so much higher than everybody else when you look at where they're living, but it was interesting to see that that was the response we got in terms of participant locations. One thing that I thought was good this time was when we looked at participant ages, we got a much better spread on this survey than we have in the past. So breaking it down by different generations, when you look at baby boomers or Gen X or millennials, it was all about the same percentage. So we were glad to see that this time, that we got a more representative response. We did a safety survey about 3 years ago, and we noticed that was a problem back then, as we definitely skewed to the much older generations and less to the young generation. So this time we did want to hopefully correct that as much as we could to get better representation. And I think we did pretty good on that on this survey. The last thing I wanted to talk about with the survey is we had a question regarding congested locations, where we let survey respondents click on a map, show us where they experience congestion, and then put in there why they're experiencing congestion or some of their thoughts in terms of how they can fix congestion. We received over 2,000 responses to that, so we're quite proud that we got so much response. We're still currently analyzing the data. We've had some issues with the data exports, plus such a robust response to it. So I was hoping to have some summary that we could provide on that, but we're still working on that. As we finish analyzing that data, we'll do a couple things with it. One, we'll incorporate it into part 2 of our congestion management process. Specifically, where we're looking at congested locations and some possible countermeasures, we'll tie their survey responses to that, so we can get kind of a first eye view of some of these locations and see what the public thinks are some of the issues there. We'll also incorporate into some of our other planning efforts, whether it's the long-range plan or any of the other work we do at our agency. And we'll also share it with VDOT and the locality so they can see the comments provided on their particular roadways in their location. So hopefully in the next month or so, we're hoping to have this part wrapped up, and so we can share that with everybody. So quickly, survey takeaways. As I said, it kind of surprised us that unpredictable travel times ranked highest compared to some of the other issues. But longer travel times and safety were also the top issues that survey respondents were noting in terms of congestion. We did see such a significant difference between people's travel times when they're commuting between congested and uncongested conditions, so that was interesting to note. And also, interesting that traffic management strategies ranked so high when we looked at congestion mitigation solutions. I have a couple more slides, but I do want to open it up before we leave the survey in case there's any questions on that before I go to the last 2 slides about some additional analysis for the day. Okay, hearing no questions. Yeah.
Can we maybe, could you go back to that slide of people's preferences for solutions, Keith? Madam Chair, if you don't mind, just maybe see what the reaction might be of the Community Advisory Committee members. So, Keith, one of the things I found really interesting is how many respondents said that how we solve this is with major infrastructure improvements. Yet, as you know, and Victor know, and other people, there's just not very much money available out there at the federal and state level for that, right? What you've all seen here is, there's a book a few years ago called The New Regionalism. What it talks about is the leaders are not the federal government anymore, they're not the state government, they're regions, right? And you saw that with HRTPO and your local tax money building all these projects. But when we compete for nationwide funding, Kavithra, how much is in the pot? 500 to 700 million? For the entire country is what you compete for. You've just seen $6 billion built here in our region. So it makes me wonder, even though we would all like to see more major infrastructure improvements, if some of these other options maybe we're thinking about in terms of other solutions for how we calm traffic and give people other options for how they move around our community. So I just thought I'd throw that out there, Keith. I found that interesting, right? We'd love to get more money for transportation projects, but we do have to be realistic of how much is in that pipeline, right?
Sure, and that's part of what was interesting to me to traffic management strategies, because they're so much cheaper to those type of improvements other than compared to major infrastructure improvements. Now, the improvements you might get for them aren't going to be as large, obviously, but the cost, the price tag is so much lower that I did find that interesting, the difference between those two.
Just a question, maybe comment. So is Harrell or the express lanes part of a traffic management strategy in the term of this?
Yes.
So I think that's kind of interesting because we see so much negativity around express lanes and tolls and all of this stuff that goes on. But when you really ask people, an overwhelming number of people, and seeing that first one, that the biggest discrepancy was, I don't know how long it's going to take me to get there. That, obviously the big thing in the area is Harrell. It has such negativity around it. But if you're looking at these survey results, people are saying, I need to know how much time I need to get there, and I'm willing to do something about it. Just kind of caught me a little bit, by surprise, just because we see so much negativity around it. But really, it looks like people are seeing that, that's a problem and recognizing that that's a solution as well.
And thank you for that, Shelby. Just as a clarification for the room, Shelby mentioned it at the beginning, but when she's saying Harrell, she's talking about the express lane improvements that you see being implemented around the region. Just curious, as like a piggyback to your question, Shelby, when you all look at that category there, traffic management strategies, did you think of express lanes, or would you think of express lanes as being part of that category?
I did.
No.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and I was going to ask for some additional examples of that, right? So I went to an app.
Okay.
That's what I thought. I thought about an app.
An app, okay.
And we did put examples on the survey. We didn't just say traffic management strategies and leave it up to them. We did put examples such as coordinating traffic signals, cameras, signs, things like that. We did put examples on the actual survey page, so hopefully users knew what we were talking about when we said traffic management strategies.
Yeah, my comment was going to be, I wonder how much of this is a gap in understanding of what each of these is. But I do remember taking the survey and there were examples there, but
for all of them, not just that one too. So when we talked about reducing trips, we gave examples, and alternate modes and technologies. We did give examples of every single one. So they did.
Thank you for the reminder.
Everyone. Thank you again, Quan, for inviting me to be present in my personal capacity. Hi, Miss Carolyn again. We would have loved to have had more of you in our Hampton Roads Community Forum that we had last month in May, in which we had people representative of marginalized community civic leagues. I'm a civil and environmental engineer and community advocate. There was also other civil engineers present. And speaking from that vein, personal capacity, I know some of you I know in my professional capacity. Hi, Joey. But I'm noticing as a Craddock resident and a citizen of Portsmouth, one thing that I've noticed is people understanding why the express lane was the route to go, rather than widening something or this, that, and the third. And the one thing that our community forum really brought to my attention as a new advocate moving in this space is that we have to understand that though we may know through our professional capacity that this is the best way to do that, we have to find a way to communicate with people who are leaders in the community, not the politicians, but the actual advocates, to talk to the people who this is impacting the most, especially those vulnerable populations. We need to find a way that we are communicating directly to them, to their civic leads, their churches, and the other things that they incorporate in their lives to say, the reason why this is happening is so it can alleviate traffic here, so it can alleviate traffic here. And I know eye rolls and this, that, and the third, but when we are doing these things, we have to understand that not everybody is at our capacity, not everybody has the same concerns that we do. I was at a HRPDC meeting last week.
A rec meeting.
Right, a rec meeting. And a gentleman had mentioned about one of the surveys and how he found it odd that high schoolers had housing so high on their priority, because when he was in high school, that was not a concern. So, but for most of people in vulnerable populations here in 2026, housing is indeed a concern. So I'm not saying that people aren't considering our vulnerable populations, but that is something we have to consider when we're analyzing data and why is it more skewed here, but also skewed here, because a lot of people can't draw a line from here to here when they're juggling 2 full-time jobs. They just want to get there. So that's a reason why I stepped into this space, to try to help facilitate that with my community and other communities. But I just wanted to put that out there.
And just a quick clarification, thank you so much. At the beginning you said you would have liked for us to be at the Hampton Roads Community Forum that you had last month.
Yes, Ms. Carolyn had organized a great forum in which we had people in the community and a lot of residents present, voicing their concerns. And one thing that a lot of people don't seem to understand is it's not their fault, it's just not their profession, it's not something that they know. The difference between nuisance flooding and actual storm surge flooding. Because, for instance, my neighborhood of Craddock, it was originally founded as a planned neighborhood for white shipyard workers. That's why it was one of the first shopping centers in America. And Truxton part of Portsmouth was just kind of, I don't know if you say organized, but the line was drawn out for black shipyard workers. And over the years, the white shipyard workers were moving because they had money, they generated income, so then you had more lower income people sliding into those nice homes that just got available. We all know the history of racism in this country, so when it came to improving that as codes and advance and whatnot, Craddock and Portsmouth as a whole just wasn't a priority. So here in 2026, it can look like it's going to rain, and then you have an issue because there's no stormwater infrastructure, because they don't prioritize that, because we want a casino and we want the tallest building in Virginia, less than a mile away from a cluster of Superfund sites, because that is always a great idea. But those are things we have to consider with people who may not be from here, was brought here by the military, don't know the history of the area. Like, okay, why does my neighborhood flood when it only rained for 10 minutes today? people need to know, the answer to things like that.
For those meetings, please distribute that or let me know. I'll make sure to distribute it to our CAC members and also to our planning and engineering staff so that they can also be there and be aware, because as you mentioned, it's important to have that balance of the technical perspective, the planning perspective, but also the community input because there can be those gaps.
Right, and what we don't want to happen to our region, to our area, which is why we are all here, is, a rising tide lifts all, okay? So you don't want to focus on the oceanfront. You don't want to focus on, waterside and all that cool stuff, and then when people got to go get off of the exit, there's like 5 buy here, pay here car lots. And they're thinking, should I be taking my family to this area? Like, what's going on here? So that's why we have to have those uncomfortable conversations about what we really want our region to be reflective of.
Thank you, Jessica.
Yeah, no problem.
Are there questions or comments for Keith before he moves on to the second part?
Thank you, Keith, for the overview. And the data here that we're seeing is very insightful, and it tracks very closely with what I was thinking, what I experience every day, where when it comes to the traffic management, some of the frustrations are sort of the first and last mile, getting through all the stoplights to get to your home so that you finally get to whatever your locality is, and you're like, hey, I've gotten to Suffolk and now it's 15 minutes to get through downtown. So that's a daily experience for a lot of us. And then when it comes to the larger infrastructure investments, I feel like that sort of ties in very closely with the unknowns because of just the geographics of the area. A lot of times you can't go anywhere without going through a tunnel or across a bridge. So we have limited choke points there. So I should have a 20-minute commute from Suffolk into Portsmouth every day, and you never know whether that's going to be 20 minutes or an hour because of limited route options through there. So it's something that I actually feel like I appreciate to see all the data up there, because it's something that I experience day in and day out, and I agree that especially some of the traffic management strategies, like Bob was saying, are some of the lower hanging fruit that some of the localities can lead on to try and especially make those last couple of miles to your driveway a little bit easier. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, so I just wanted to wrap up with a couple slides here talking about something we're incorporating here into our part 2 of the CMP analysis, and that's looking at socially vulnerable and transportation vulnerable communities and tying the great congestion data that we have and tying it with that data to see what the impacts are on the socially vulnerable and transportation vulnerable communities. So after some brainstorming, we have a couple ideas here, but I did want to open it up if there are other thoughts, whether it's today or you email us afterward. Just any ideas you have on it, that'd be great. But I did just want to talk about some of the things we're thinking of. One of the things there I have in the first bullet is how do congestion levels compare in the various communities in our area? Is there a skew toward the transportation vulnerable communities seeing higher levels of congestion or not? We don't know that, so that's one of the first questions we really want to answer is how does that look in Hampton Roads? How does it look for our communities? And like I said, not just we want to look at every community, but also at the 30,000 level. How does it look at in Hampton Roads as a whole? Then we want to drill down on that a little bit and say, okay, so let's identify the areas then that do have severe congestion, but also are transportation vulnerable communities or socially vulnerable. So we can identify those and say, okay, there's a particular issue in this community where it is seeing this high level of congestion, and some of the impacts that that locality or that community, may go through. So for example, increased emissions, that can be an issue if you are, let's say, right by the tunnel and you're in a socially vulnerable community. You could have increased issues related to emissions or quality of life or just your travel times, just getting out of your driveway to go to work, for example. Maybe that's a big issue because of the severe congestion you see in your particular community. So those are the type of thoughts we had as we brainstormed on this, but I did want to open it up if there were any other thoughts, like I said, either now or if you want to send us a message either to Quan or me in terms of some thoughts you've had after you've had a little bit of time to sleep on it. Just if there are any thoughts, like I said, right now regarding this type of information.
Any thoughts on this?
That was Yeah, that was the last slide I had. So, like I said, you all have Juan's email. You can go ahead and send any thoughts you have to him, and he'll forward them to us. That's probably the easiest way to do it. But once again, if you get it tomorrow or 2 months from now, please go ahead and send that information to us as we're working on this. We definitely want to incorporate all your feedback into it, make sure it's a very valuable analysis when we look at congestion in our region.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming and presenting to us prior to the survey going out, and then of course with the results afterwards. Thank you. All right, we are moving on to agenda item number 9, Reconnecting Communities, Exploring Connections, Barriers, and Opportunities, presented by Kyle Gilmer from the Transportation Strategic Planner with the City of Norfolk Department of Transportation.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. There we go. We're not sleepy from lunch, are we? Yeah. All right. So my name is Kyle Gilmer. I'm the Transportation Strategic Planner with the City of Norfolk Department of Transportation. I oversee all of the planning division work, transportation planning work that we do in the City of Norfolk. I'm joined here with a couple of my colleagues and the project team, such as Sonia Clark. We have Ashley Blue, and then on the project team on the WSD side, we have Christian Belfield. So. What we are looking at here is we have a Reconnecting Communities project. But first, back up. How many of you live, work, or play in Norfolk? Have, thank you, hands, there we go. Have gone to a harbor game, the casino, tides, have gone through the 264 corridor. So I think I saw lots of hands, so this probably applies to everyone, so that's good. I'm going to go through this presentation a little bit quickly because towards the end I do want to do sort of a hands-on group kind of activity with some interactive maps that we have, and I'll discuss that towards the end. So our agenda today, just introductions, we're doing a background, we're going to look at what is the Reconnecting Communities project, our specific project in the corridor and the specific areas in there. Public engagement, this is the key part of why we are here today, and then next steps in this process. So our study background, the Reconnecting Communities project is really built off of our 2018 brownfield study that we have identified early reconnection concepts throughout our waterfront, waterside, downtown kind of core area. You might have heard of the St. Paul's transformation project or the Blue Greenway. So this is all kind of built off of that 2018 brownfield study that we have available online. And it's also built off our city-approved 2022 multimodal transportation master plan. So that is looking at all different mode choices, not just cars. It's looking at bikes, scooters, transit, walking, rollerblading, you name it, we have it in the plan. We have identified some core areas that you see over here on the right in this picture. It's a little hard to see, but I'll get into it a little bit further in the presentation. And the impetus of this whole entire project, it's really building on the ongoing development and adjacent area development that you see throughout the downtown kind of core area of this project. So with the Gawker Mall kind of closing down, and we're kind of thinking about the redevelopment of that. How can we bring our ideas for the Reconnecting Communities project to the downtown area and the surrounding neighborhoods? So our core focus areas, of course, the 264 corridor, the interstate system, downtown Norfolk, Harbor Park, our Kindred development, St. Paul's area, and then Norfolk State University. How can we reconnect those areas that were once divided by this interstate system? So why this study matters, and I'm not going to go, read this line by line, but really the importance of this is we have historically across the nation, we have seen that interstate infrastructure has once divided Black and brown communities, and it has destroyed sort of these connections that people can get to and from work, their essential services, key services that they see throughout the city, and that is really dependent on cars right now. So the way that we're trying to frame this project and look forward to the future is, we have limited pedestrian access, we have limited bike and local street connectivity that creates those barriers that we really want to reconnect here in the downtown area. I'm not going to go through, the funding. So we have about 1.6 million from the feds, and then 1.4 from the city allocated for this planning study that we're doing. And this is just all really an opportunity to identify areas where we can reconnect those connections, where neighborhoods, institutions, and key services are very important for our residents in the region. So what is being evaluated through this process? So it's a planning study, as I mentioned. There's no construction at this time right now. It's going to be a multi-year kind of process that we're going through. Right now we are in the thick of it for a public engagement process. We're actually wrapping up the public engagement. We've been doing it for about a year or so, in 9-10 months so that we've been doing it. So that's why we are in front of you all to get some feedback on this project. It is looking at our local streets here. This map here sort of shows the key areas, the purple dots. There's also a map that I dropped off at your table that you can look at. So looking at those 4 potential key areas where we could create new connections to these areas, and how would you envision that in the future? Not just looking at it from a car's perspective, that we're not completely getting rid of cars, but other types of mode choices that you would want to go to. It's a community-focused design alternatives. So once we get through sort of these public engagement touch points, hear from you all, get some feedback, hear your stories and experiences, we'll then move on to the next steps of creating some alternatives, which then we'll do a second round of engagement to say, hey, here are the alternatives. Which one works best with the communities? What are some issues, concerns, or opportunities with here? Last 2 are very technical. We won't see that for probably about another couple months from here, but we'll refine these concepts after this first initial stage of public engagement. All right, so the key component, yes.
Just a question for context here at the map. I don't see a scale on here. About what is the distance between the communities that you're looking
So
at?
Good question, thank you. So the scope on here is downtown Norfolk, kind of key area. We're looking to maybe expand it to all of downtown Norfolk, but that is City Hall, where the far left is City Hall of Norfolk. So downtown Norfolk, all the way up to St. Paul's Transformation area, down to the Harbor Park, Amtrak station, the new casino that's being built, and then as far east as Norfolk State University, what is Bramilton Avenue. It's kind of the area that we're looking at here. Of course, the waterfront, of course. Does that answer your question?
Just for scale, about how many miles are we talking?
I don't know if we have the mileage on the top. We could get that for you. But it's kind of this area. There's about 3 or 4 civic leagues in here. We have a couple business associations with this. We have a downtown Norfolk council. So there's a lot of stakeholders that are part of this process. If that kind of gives you an idea of mileage and to think about, but I could definitely follow up with you with that. So getting back to the public engagement, so this is the key kind of pillar throughout this process. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your stories, your experiences, your ideas, what is working, where are there opportunities that we can look at these reconnections here. There's a video playing over here. This is our online engagement map where you could go in, you could zoom into a map, you could put some concerns, ideas, things I've mentioned, add some comments, and that gets sent to us as we receive the feedback. We consider these into creating those alternatives. We're not going to be doing the online interactive map today. We will actually be doing some printed maps for each of you after I end this presentation to get kind of a more one-on-one conversation with each of you. Our public engagement spans several stakeholders and groups, community meetings with civic leagues, task forces, advisory groups, such as this one, other stakeholders. We've been attending tons of public pop-up engagement events, Tides games, Wine Fest. We're looking at a couple more here in a couple weeks. And then, of course, the engagement map. So looking at our path forward and the next steps, this red box right here is currently where we are in the phase. So we're wrapping up the community meetings and engagement. And then once we have enough feedback and we end that probably here in the next month or so, we'll move on to exploring those alternatives. So we'll start doing the conceptual planning, getting those exhibits, those ideas, probably have multiple alternatives to come back out to the communities and say, this is what we heard, which are the ideas that you're comfortable with, which ones can we actually move forward to potential funding opportunities. This of course has to go through tons, as you can see we have 3 steps. After that, this has to go through tons of review and coordination with FHWA, our VDOT partners, and then identifying funding opportunities. But again, this is first step, planning level. We're looking at ideas for then we can go to implementation. So again, next steps. This is also on the project info sheet I've handed out. We are going to do a quick 10-ish minute, if that's good, Juan. 10-ish minute, breakout. If we probably do it by table with these interactive maps that a project team is going to pass out here. We'll be here to answer questions, kind of, listen to the stories, the experiences, and help you kind of, navigate how you want to draw these alternatives on this map, and looking at it from not just a automobile, but maybe you want to look at it your future generations. How are they going to get to school? How are they going to shop downtown? Do you want to use a scooter, a bike? Do you want to hop on some bus rapid transit? 15-minute headways, things like that. So we'll go through this process. We will have, I want to sort of be very casual, open, one-on-one conversations as we draft up some ideas. We'll take these maps back and we'll incorporate it into our planning process to then move on to our alternatives that we'll come back out to. Sound like a plan for everyone? Do we have any questions before we kind of break out? Yes.
So my question, and I heard you did the presentation for Freemason at Blocker.
Yeah.
What level of engagement has taken place specifically with the St. Paul's area and Norfolk State?
So we actually presented to the St. Paul's Advisory Committee and then several of their civic leagues there. So they are part of our advisory committee. As we go out to them, we give them updates on there. We presented to them about 3 months ago to get some ideas, and then that actually spurred off to other opportunities for us to engage with their, especially the youth. Like we want to hear the future generations about how do you want to move around this area, and hearing a lot recently, it's a lot of it's not safe to walk to bike, so we want to really focus on that with the multimodal perspective from there. But we have presented to the St. Paul's Advisory Committee, because this also ties into the St. Paul's transportation area. Perfect. So we have not actually reached out to them, reached out to other coordinators, just did a this again, this is not the only round that we're doing some engagements or next round of years. We definitely want to focus on and then transitions and going out to the center. Yes, I know about Bragg personally. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. Right. Yeah, no, that's a good idea. I'll definitely write that them in here with me. Okay, yeah, we would love to maybe at some point, since this doesn't just stop here in the downtown, it's going to, when, we want to blend and make this continuous infrastructure. Oh, you do? Okay, so you know all about the construction going on here. Yeah. Okay, yeah, perfect. Yeah, I'll grab my card. Yeah, but we have any ideas there?
Students together.
Yes.
willing to try to go back and
Thank you. Yes, I'll get you my card after I do the secretary. Thank you.
Next time, first idea was to connect the apartment market and casino to the other side through that area. To try and invite people to the
Y'all have met, I'm working together. So, hi, Will is from Suffolk. Gentlemen, can I ask you a favor? When we get to workshop session 2, can you assist me when I'm going to try to get them to push some of the tables together. So I'll let them know as well, but just so that they can be able to put the pads down on the tables. So thank you. I really appreciate y'all. And thank you so much for getting the catering taken care of. We have 4 pads, so we could probably do a quadrant here, a quadrant there, a quadrant there, and a quadrant here.
Yeah, they're on their advisory committee in addition to what they want to do for the project. And they've already given us but we'll definitely work with them once we put that on the public outreach meeting. Say, hey, what transit sections are possible, especially if we simplify some of these roles that don't have
All right, so we can go ahead and wrap up our final thoughts. Final thoughts. We can go ahead and wrap up those final thoughts. Final thoughts.
Quadrants. It's just for sections. And it doesn't have to look pretty. It just has to be enough space for them to stand around and put a tag on. Thank you. I really appreciate y'all. I know it's a last minute ask. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, if we can go ahead and wrap up. I love walking around and hearing all of the wonderful, wonderful conversation. I've heard from a lot of you that this is what you want. This is what you come to this meeting for, is to be able to engage in the planning process. So thank you so much. Kyle, are there any parting words that you have for the group?
No, I'll probably pick up these maps from you all on the way out if you don't mind. Oh, thank you. Cindy's going to pick them up for you. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. They have my contact information. And we will also be out for more future events. So hopefully I'll see more faces out there. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Did you answer the question about the length of the board? It's about a mile.
There you go.
Driving time is about 3 minutes or an hour and 45 minutes.
I just remember.
Yes. All right, committee.
We are, as we modified our agenda, going to now go back to number 7 for membership approval and handing it over to Quan for that.
All right, so the CAC membership subcommittee has met and is presenting membership recommendations for the group. We are requesting approval of their membership applications. Many of the, or all of the applicants that you see there listed have attended CAC meetings and as presented to the membership subcommittee, showed themselves to be engaged community members who would be great additions to the body. If we could have a current member who would be able to provide a motion that we, or move that we approve the applicants as presented, and then if we could have a second and a vote on that. So do I have a motion to approve the applications as presented? Josh?
Motion.
Motion, okay, do we have a second? Second, Shelby, thank you. All right, and do we have any opposed? Any abstained? All right, and ayes. Are anyone in favor?
Aye.
All right. With that being said, the ayes have it.
Congratulations and welcome to our new members of the CAC. For those of you that are in the room today, we're happy to have you.
All right.
Anything else, Quan, before we move?
No.
All right.
What is I'm sorry. Oh,
You do a
yeah.
quorum. We can go back, we gotta go back to minutes.
All
All right, now that we have quorum,
Thank you.
we are gonna go back to item number 5, which is the approval of our minutes. In your packet, you have the draft of the April 9th, 2026 meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve? Thank you.
I was in attendance, I'm sorry. I was in attendance, I have a correction.
You have a correction?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, correction.
I was in attendance at the meeting.
On that day, and it says
Yes.
you weren't.
Okay.
Yes, we will make that edit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other
Okay.
discussion before we make a motion to approve? A motion to approve, please.
Move to approve with the edit.
Thank you, Daniel. And a second.
Second.
Thank you, Frank. All right, Daniel and Frank. The minutes are approved with that edit. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Gotta get a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes with the edit? Say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, they are approved. All right, we are now going back to item number 11 for your information. Juan, you're going to kick that off, or Bob, you're going to do that?
Yeah, Bob will kick off with item number A. Miss Janice Taylor is not here, so we will hold that for next meeting, and then Bob will take it off with item number C, and then I'll go from there.
Very good.
Or
So Juan's already warned me, this is 5 minutes total, right, Juan? So I'll move very quickly. The first item I wanted to bring to your attention is item A, our long-range transportation plan, 2050 LRTP as we call it. We're really excited. At the last TPO meeting in May, the region took action to approve the new 2050 long-range transportation plan. First off, thank you to this Community Advisory Committee. Your input into this process was incredibly important. You will see in your agenda at the bottom of page 4 a link to the long-range plan webpage. I would really encourage you to take a look at that link. What you're going to find is a plan that looks out to 2050, thinks about how this region might grow, and thinks about what our transportation improvement needs might be between now and the year 2050. You're going to find recommendations for roadway improvements. You're going to find recommendations for public transit improvements. You're going to find recommendations for biking and walking paths. And you're even going to find some things related to travel demand management that some of those ideas Keith was talking about. So, and then you're going to look at all those needs, and you're going to look at what the available dollars might be to build those needs, and it'll really give you a good opportunity to see where we're heading in terms of regional transportation plans in the Hampton Roads region. So I really recommend you take a look at that. The one thing I want to stress, we don't put this plan away for 5 years. We'll have the LSTIF back in front of you. This plan we've got to take a look at periodically. That will happen as new ideas come forward and new funding opportunities come forward. So that's the first item, Madam Chair, I wanted to bring to the CAC's attention. And then as Quan said, the other item I'd like to brief you on is item number 3. Based on some input that Quan has received from members and partners of the Community Advisory Committee, Quan had made a request that through our budget process this year that we consider a stipend for Community Advisory Committee members. Our management team works with a Personnel and Budget Committee that consists of local elected officials. We took that idea to the Personnel and Budget Committee. I can report that the Personnel and Budget Committee indicated they were not in a position to be able to do those stipends at this time. Some of the reasons that they provided was, first, from a budgetary standpoint, funding to our organization from the state and from the federal sources continues to be at a pretty dramatic decline. And the other comment that they mentioned was we have over 50 committees like this at the PDC and TPO, and that there was some concern if they did it for one committee that they would have to replicate that and be fair to other committees, and we just didn't have the resources to be able to do that. Having said that, one of the things that we've been able to do in different places in the past is that if we can find specific funding, something we did through the climate pollution program, etc., we have been able to use specific grant programs for this purpose. So what Quan and I have done is we've reached out to the Hampton Roads Community Foundation to see if they might have any resources that we might be eligible for. I'm not aware that they've done that in the past, but we can have a conversation and make that request if they would consider a proposal for enhanced community engagement. So I did want to circle back and make you aware of that. We weren't able to get it into the budget this year, but if some funding sources do become available, we will certainly circle back. Okay. So Madam Chair, those were my quick reports and those up.
Just a question about that. Enhanced community engagement, is there an attendance issue? Why wouldn't people want to be here? And I know that's like an obvious question, but why do you feel compelled to need to put a stipend out there?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So I'll speak as the liaison, and then I'll also, if there are any other CAC members who advocated for the stipend who would like to provide input, you can as well. So as the liaison, we have, as you saw earlier in the CMP survey, we're talking about socially and transportation vulnerable populations. But most of the people in this room have a car and were able to drive here to this meeting. One of the things that we consistently talk about is the lack of having a robust public transit system in our region for people to be able to navigate. One of the things that Lauren and I were just talking about a few moments ago is that we hear from a lot of our young professionals that our public transit system isn't robust enough for them to be able to even stay in the region, so they may go to a DC or Raleigh, etc. If we are going to walk the walk that we talk, which is that we want to have the input from those socially vulnerable and transportation vulnerable populations or communities, then I believe firmly as an organization, should put our money where our mouth is, and we should invest in that.
Okay, so it's for specific attendance. It's not to be coming to the CAC, period. It's to get people with lived experiences of that level of frustration.
To ensure that,
their...
right, and when you look at other MPOs, what you see is that for them to have consistent engagement and that participation sustained, they compensate the people who come. You see it in Richmond, you see it across the nation.
We do it in our shop to get people with lived experiences to be at the meeting, to voice their opinion, their experiences, and tell us what we don't know, because we don't live in it. So
right.
we do the same thing with gift cards, bus passes, all of
right.
that. So
and it's hard to say that we're like planning with those people in mind and then not making sure that our meetings are accessible to them.
Thank you.
If I may clarify, just to be certain everybody has the same information. So the specific request we were asked to take forward to the Personnel and Budget Committee was for a stipend for these committee members. That was the specific request that I received 7 or 8 letters from either CAC members or partners in the room asking for specific stipends for this CAC. We have, so as a separate item, we have on a number of occasions done, Joanne, what you and Quan have mentioned, whether it's, for instance, our Hampton Roads Horizons survey, and like Quan pointed out, gift cards, right? And we think that the fact that we were giving people an option to eligible to win gift cards, we think really improved response to that survey. Or some of the things we did, and Quan was a big part of this with the climate pollution reduction program, was another area where we had some giveaways and some incentives. So in some cases, we have been able to do that. But the specific request that I took to the Personnel and Budget Committee was the request for a stipend for this.
And I will just note that in the absence of a stipend, I use my personal vehicle to make sure that our CAC members who are unable to be here due to transportation are able to be here. And one of the requests that we have had from the CAC is that we meet around the region at different places, which is really helpful and important for us as a regional body. But keep in mind, someone has to make sure that that occurs and that people get there. All right, so moving on to letter D, the Hampton Roads Horizon Strategic Plan. I just want to make sure that I draw your attention to your agenda packets. You'll see a page that looks like this. Please, please, please take your time, look through there. Make sure that you take note of the feedback and the input that was received. I specifically want you to look at the overall ranking from the in-person meetings and civic groups and partner organizations. You'll see it here. And then I also want you to look at the students at Green Run High School, their career fair, so you can see what they used and their feedback was related to the strategic plan. Really quick, just so I can make sure we still have enough time, I'm gonna put a video up, or Elijah, are you able to put that up? I want to draw you all to the Industrial Waterfront Restoration Buckeye Terminals. We have some amazing staff that have been working on that, and so this is a brief video, and then we're going to get into workshop session number 2.
Buckeye here at Money Point in Chesapeake is just a perfect example of River Star business stewardship. The minute they bought this terminal, they were already interested in participating in the program.
Buckeye's been an Elizabeth River Star business for over 10 years now, and it's been such a rewarding experience. Casey from HRPDC got in touch with me because we've got mutual contacts in ERP and asked if Buckeye would be a willing participant in a grant that she wanted to apply for. And almost immediately we got talking and decided that we had a great opportunity to do a living shoreline on our property.
Our local governments have to achieve Chesapeake Bay cleanup goals. So they are working towards achieving a pollution diet regionally. So while we do work really closely with our local governments, we need to also bring in our industrial waterfront partners. Building living shoreline is really valuable here at Buckeye. It's an example not only for the local industries here on the Elizabeth River, but also for other industries regionally. So we can use this project as an example to share across the watershed, not just here in Hampton Roads, but also the Chesapeake Bay. This living shoreline project will help reduce pollutants like nitrogen and phosphorus and sediment that are entering our waterways. It will also increase and build a habitat for all the critters living here on the Elizabeth River. The key to this kind of work and putting in an extensive living shoreline like this is to really have partners and bringing those partners to the table willing to work rain or shine, whether it's a nonprofit organization like the Elizabeth River Project or staff like we have from Buckeye. It's really great to see the motivation and the hard work ethic that everyone brought to the table to make this a successful project.
I've been with Buckeye for 18 years, and in the time that I've been here, I don't think I could ever say that there's a day that's gone by that I didn't know that Buckeye cared for the environment. We've always been inspired to participate with the Elizabeth River Project. We've always really been focused on compliance, which is super important in our industry. But over the years, our ability to implement projects like this one here at our Chesapeake terminal, I think, under IFM's ownership and our Buckeye leadership, we've really had the opportunity to just expand on our longstanding commitment to environmental stewardship and environmental responsibility.
As part of this project, we brought our environmental regulatory compliance and right-of-way people from all over the corporation in. That included bringing people from as far as Colorado, the Bahamas, Puerto Rico, Maine, to be out here and work as a team. And everywhere I looked, there were smiling faces, even though they were drenched and we were in ponchos and just trying to keep our spirits high. It actually was such a fun day, and we couldn't be more thankful to have a group like Elizabeth River in this community because it's so meaningful and so impactful.
The Buckeye team is pretty competitive by nature, so to know that we had a challenge of planting 14,000 plants in a really short window of time and doing it in one tide cycle was also kind of a fun challenge that we really embraced and had a great time doing it.
Wetlands are considered one of the highest value ecosystems, even more than rainforests. These native wetland grasses help filter stormwater runoff. They help buffer wave action. They provide a nursery for a number of fish, and they clean the water. So we took this shoreline that had just rubble and no greening at all, and we greened almost 800 feet of it. It's going to be really significant.
All right. So that's a really wonderful project that our staff, Casey, and Jill, and our water resources team has been working on. Madam Chair, with your approval, if we can move on to our next item.
Yep. Item number 10, Finding the Gap Session 2, workshop led by Quan.
All right. So many of you were here in April and in December as we talked about, making sure that as a CAC you have the knowledge base and you have the information you need to be effective. You are an advisory body, you are a public body for the HRPDC and for the HRTPO, but I want to make sure that when you step into this space that you are informed, that you are equipped with the tools and the resources that you need to be just effective members of this body. So I'm going to skip through section 1. These slides are available from our December, our April meeting. It provides overview of who we are, but just in the interest of making sure that we have time to do what we need to do here, you can find these slides on our website. So we'll go to section 2. In our last meeting in April, I asked you all a couple of questions, and we got some really great feedback. If you look in your agendas, I think it's, sorry Shelby, I'm going to lean over you. I believe it's after the strategic, is it after the strategic survey or before? There should be, okay, it's before. It's your first set of attachments there. Yes, that's right. And so I was able to scan those and get those included in your agenda packet. And so what you see there are some of those responses that you provided to those prompts and questions that I asked. Describe what you believe the CAC is and its purpose. That was me being able to gauge and understand, like, how well do you understand your own function and purpose, right? What departments or planning areas do you need or want to know more about to be effective CAC members? For instance, we had Keith from Performance Management within the HRTPO come up here and provide an update on the congestion management process. But if as a body you're not very familiar with what that is or what the purpose of that department is, then I'm not helping you be as effective as you can be, right? And then what's missing? What are some considerations or topics that you don't see us often talking about, or that you would like to see more discussion on? And so you can see some of that feedback there. And then how can me best support you in being effective CAC members? And so I asked you, what tools or resources do you still need to be effective? What do you comprehend about your role? Do you feel confident in assessing the resources and spaces available to you? Do you feel ownership of the CAC? Some of the feedback I've heard from CAC members before is like, we don't want to come to meetings where we're just provided with briefings and talk back, right? We want to make sure that we're able to actually engage and be participatory members of that regional planning process. And do you feel empowered to advise? It's part of your name, Community Advisory Committee. And it actually is part of what makes you all a public body, as well as being a subcommittee of the PDC TPO. And then we talked about the takeaways and wrap up, what you learned, etc. So now we're going to get up here in a minute, and our wonderful friends here in the communications team, who I kind of sprung this on, are going to help us separate the room into quadrants. So if you could just assist them, we're going to get into 4 different sections. And then we're going to go ahead and have the continuation of our workshop session 2. And the first question will be, in your own words, what stuck out to you most from the last workshop? If you weren't here or in attendance at the last workshop, feel free to take a look at some of the notes that were there from the last workshop. Think about some of the questions that you saw come up. What are the things that maybe came across your mind? If you can, I know that some of you were in attendance, some of you weren't. If you were in attendance, try to spread yourselves out, spread the love, the knowledge, so to speak, amongst people who maybe weren't here so that you can provide your insights as attendees from that April 9th meeting. So if I could, if everybody could just go ahead and get up, and then our wonderful comms team is going to help us split into quadrants.
One thing I need to know is from the I was initially just thinking this take one table and split one table.
Sorry about that.
You didn't mess it up. I did. I just was like, I messed it up. I looked at the wrong thing. I'm so sorry. That's your Robert's Rules of Order.
No, it's okay. No. It's okay. It's okay. So we'll have one here. It's no specific number. Sorry. We need enough space for them to be able to talk around. Okay. Maybe this table here a little bit, and then you can bring that table behind you, Shelby.
I'm so sorry. I've done that quite often.
I didn't mean to. He's saying four.
Oh, so he wants four together.
Now he wants four together.
Okay, all right.
We need to go over there.
Here.
Okay. Yeah, we can, or maybe that's it. Okay.
I got kicked out of my group and I joined your group.
Were you there as April? I was. Our whole meeting. That's totally. I mean, I was there, but like,
I know, that's what I said.
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. That was good. I don't understand.
You said big skinny. All right.
So my biggest takeaway from it
All
was
right.
that
So yeah,
nobody really understood the role. You know, like people kind of asked like, how did you get into it? I said, well, I jokingly say I got volunteered. Yeah, and they're like, you should do this, and then you know.
I just found it, and I was like, there's openings for Suffolk. So
Yeah.
I didn't know because I was on other we find out about regional. But I feel like one thing that we don't get that I feel like would be cool is whenever we do an on-site location, that we have more participation from that locality's estimates on what they have. We're in Suffolk, I would love the city manager to be out here because, hey, within these concern areas, this is what this locality is doing.
That's a real good one.
Newport News, Virginia Beach.
Here's our marker. I'm writing that.
Because we get stuff from the HRPDC.
Or, I mean, we even have a representative.
All right.
From that. Yeah. I mean, we have the community, but then also someone from the.
I engage with my community leaders all the time, but I don't know everybody else. And I definitely don't use the other community leaders.
So, I think that's good.
You were here at our last meeting.
I didn't. Like, here's my problem, and then now you know it's going to be like, oh, this can solve it, this can solve it, there's a funding option for this, and just sharing it.
So what stuck out to you most from the last
It's like you don't
workshop?
know what you don't know. Do you want it writing in the?
Oh, yes. Oh.
Alright, so we'll say.
Everybody got a mark right there.
That doesn't make sense. Did you say next? Yes. The game last night was so good.
What's like the purpose?
I feel like we're supposed to be the conduit for our community and kind of leadership. The only leadership that we usually engage with is HRTPO PDC. We don't engage with our locality leadership. They usually have their own monthly meetings or whatever, and we never see, I never see like during the night or the other day or just like that. There's no engagement there. So it's great talking to Bob and Juan and some of them, but it'd be good to have those other leaders in the room every once in a while. I'm on the economic development board, locality, and a couple other civic boards there. So something, father-in-law's on city council, and I know all people, so like I talk to them and I text them all the time, but I know nothing about the leadership in Chesapeake right next door, what's happening in Norwood, what the concerns are. I know my little 430 square miles of Suffolk, but not the other issues in other places.
Somebody said that, I go to like a forum where all the community like leaders got back and have like an elevator speech for their city. I also think kind of like you're saying, or even if it's like once, Chesapeake, you're on, someone talking to you, you're good at that. Someone from someone from this, and help us better understand our community and kind of help each other.
I mean, that's like, there is some process too, and like, they're not necessarily seeing some good work, but they're excited to get it representative. The other thing I kind of blend all of that together.
I also think that's your work. Yeah. I think it's a great thing too when they talk about, she was talking about, like, communities that aren't vulnerable communities. Going with the vulnerable populations, they're not paying $150. I'm not paying $150. I got to stay to the city with my boss says, and I think that could be a great, like, if we had a table. Yeah. Right. But I mean, I think that's a great that's fine. I'm at what
All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up this question. That was more so to get you and your juices flowing. But I see some of y'all didn't write anything down now. It's okay. We're just warming up. All right. So on to our next question. One of the key takeaways from the last meeting was the discussion of meeting cadence as well. And this is something kind of like from the administrative part that your chair, your vice chair, myself as the liaison really need to know. What does that change look like? So what we heard thrown out was every month, okay? I want y'all to ask yourselves about that timing. Is that monthly? Is that nine times a year, like our HRTPO, HRPDC board? Where are the meetings held? Keeping in mind, this is a consideration I wanted y'all to really think about. And think geographically about where these areas are. They're kind of on the outskirts of our, our region. We currently don't have representation from James River County, Williamsburg, Surrey, Smithfield, Gloucester, Franklin, or Poquoson. So I want you all to think about what does that look like and what you want to accomplish during those meetings, etc. So go ahead and take, I put 15 minutes up there, but really just in the interest of time, take 10 minutes and then we'll go from there.
I think definitely targeting meetings, like how it's easier to do conservation, like you guys usually do tours, right?
I know,
I've been at a couple of those, so they're really exciting, and then you have your formal meetings, like to try to get someone from the underrepresented locality to go out there and meet with the stakeholders to say, like, here's what CAC does, are there any community volunteers that want to do more advisory community? Smithfield, we kind of work with media. So I used to be involved with the CAC.
Are there any nonprofits you want to meet at?
Certainly Street Street, because they are out of the urban Preston area, so they do feel pretty participated. But I think going out to them, having the meeting, and trying to
The Suffolk location isn't very large, so I would focus on the Chesapeake. Yeah, that's where the headquarters is. But yeah, I mean the meetings where, like when we were at the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, we had the tour. I think like those are interesting to see what the other nonprofits are doing. Like, no offense to VDOT here, but outside of being in the building here, I feel like there's not much to see. If we're going to do them in the different areas, I would rather actually be at City Hall or somewhere like that where we know we've got good transportation, most likely regional transportation to that area. You have that leadership group there, so
Malia asked a good question. She wanted to know when the board does it meet. That's June, August, and December. Our board doesn't meet in June, August, and December. Summer.
It's not,
that's where it's like,
yeah, but I guess a way to like try to bridge that, maybe partnering with the HRT or Suffolk Transit to maybe work out something that if we're missing someone partner with them to say like, hey, we have maybe it's monthly, maybe it's 9 times a year, like you provide free transit at a special spot, and they take you to the CAC meeting and what else to do for that barrier to.
I think it's also for a lot of the different areas, they don't know we exist. So I would love to just get more within Suffolk, within Chesapeake, within their social media to make sure that they're putting it out there, because people are more likely to be tracking, following their local government than we are. HRTPO or HRPDC.
So we need to grant, Lauren's going to do this.
Yeah.
got results from it today, you can look for it here.
I say the same thing about Virginia Beach. It's the Brigadoon Civic League.
I don't want to put anything on his plate, but creating something 2 weeks before our meeting that you could share to let people know about it's coming up.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm with you. I didn't even know this existed until someone was like, hey, you're going to be part of this committee of standing rig thing. I mean, I like, hey, did you know the CAC? And we're looking for Norfolk representative and to partner with every single one of those people. So that was your right. My world and my job has me follow every social media in the world, but I wouldn't be following Virginia Beach if I lived in Norfolk and didn't have a reason to follow something. Or I mean, like, I only know about the deals because I work in that world.
Because I work in.
Yeah, but I mean, if you were in your role, you would not follow the TPO, right? It does, and it would be like the same pose with a
version to be greater.
Yeah.
But I also say and I feel like that's where the CAC members, CAC members can go out to your locality, your agencies that you represent, and say like, hey, you know, I'm on this, like, here's my experience, here's what we do, it's a great opportunity for you to join, to fill those vacancies.
And maybe like a job description, like a quick job description.
Like,
Like, are you passionate about, instead of like a dating app?
Yeah, like apply here. Yeah.
Like, you know, do you love it?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think, and especially to me, like I came here and I was like, I go to meetings all the time. I've never motion to this, and like it seems so formal because it is, that I think your everyday person would be like, well, what can I contribute to it? Or like, how does this? I think we should do like a good branding. And then we too could go and share it and say like,
Yes, we're missing here, disability board, that was something listed in the last meeting.
Yeah.
Those were missing topics.
But then it's like, what do you do next? They're like, well, what do you do? Hold on, let me write a thing real quick. Oh, I forgot, and I got you.
A lot of people are not
Right.
that would make me want to follow. Like, you used to have what's good.
Those are works on there. Relax, I mean us.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up this question. Get to a good landing spot.
Yeah.
Good landing spot.
Yeah.
All right. So, some of you have already started to go into this area, and I love hearing that conversation. So, what are some great topics of, or some great topics of focus were brought up in the last workshop session? You can see kind of in your notes there, but also from the conversation. As a body, what can we prioritize and create a through line on keeping in mind the departments and resources at the PDC and TPO already at your disposal, right? So, in frame of this, I want you to think about some of the other community level groups that I have seen that are like great examples. They may focus on a specific topic or specific project for a period of time and kind of work that process through. Is that something that y'all want to do? And if you did, what does that look like? Some of the considerations I want you to consider that we hear a lot in this space: housing, flooding, including water quality, coastal resilience, etc. Emergency planning, community engagement in the regional planning process, regional identity, economic access. We've hit on food insecurity. We still need to go back up to the food pantry at Thrive on the peninsula. Upward economic mobility, public transportation. So I won't get into any more of your time, but go ahead and have those conversations.
Public transportation.
I
was one of them.
If we're going to focus on
public transportation.
Housing is the biggest issue.
Yeah, I would, that's what I was like, tell me.
That's like a song.
Oh, see, you get it. I'm like, what is happening? I got here kind of like, yeah, 7 cities. Oh, okay. It's amazing. Right. There's buses. And they're like, no. Right. And then I think it's a bad public transportation. Well, not even poor. Whereas, no, it's accessibility for these kids. Now they're 16.
Kids want to drive. And the moms want to drive.
It's crazy. My daughter, they have no
That's when I moved to
Because you want to walk. And that's like a generational thing now. We're seeing that.
And that survey result of how many people work in Norfolk but live elsewhere is also so telling of just our, like, both our development of our cities and transportation habits. And you think about too, like, what if the quality of life in Norfolk improved so that people didn't want to live in Norfolk and didn't move these, like, not that it's less than other cities, but like perception.
Because if we have much transportation, because even with paratransit, like, it's terrible. And like, I know that when you're organizing, that like, you do some organizing, you know, people are getting less in the rain, the snow, the heat. And then like, there's like another one where it's like, to order, you have to let them know the rail is paratransit.
And you still have to be on the route.
Is it half mile radius?
Half a mile from the something like that. But yeah, I didn't know that. I thought everybody could get paratransit until a couple months ago. I thought anybody. You have to be within, I think it's half a mile from an already established line. So if you live in away from a bus line, you still can't use paratransit.
So it's not
like the end.
No, it's not. It is like it's a first mile bus.
And so that's an issue. And I think, again, when we talk about like, public transit, I think housing, public transit, it all happens, right? And so again, even if you take the public transit, but yet the regional flooding, so you're working, and that you're showing that you're working, right? So you're then having to walk through all that trying to find room to get home. I know I was at the CNU conference a couple years back, and there was a lady, and she was like, yeah, in Norfolk, but like bad times, it's all for my kids, and like, I basically have to like trudge through like knee-high water to get my kids, because the flood last year, I don't think it was on the kids, but they got like 3 of the kids, like, I think they call it safety equipment, so they got them like raincoats and boots to kind of mitigate that, but it's an issue. So it wasn't. They're all so interconnected, but I think public transit is really important. You can't get that if you don't have access to it. A lot of jobs are not accommodated to public transit. And because the public transit isn't working around, we can get people here. I have a couple of people that live in the city, so for them, I never
Housing is,
so
yes.
you know,
And we have participants at the
And to your point about even not just regions, but the younger generation too, the desire, like someone was saying, like I'd rather live in DC even though it's expensive. At least I don't have to
the retainment issue in Hampton Roads because of poor public transportation and housing, so they're flocking to those areas where they have that.
More affordable housing and more access to transit.
One of my favorite things is shout out to the military
I might jot a few things down here. Because I did it kind of luxury apartments. Nobody wants a luxury apartment. I want a house. I will go to a home center and pay $100. I don't need
the cost of living here is extremely that's the it's just you hear more but barely
because then you rent it out and a year later they're like, oh, you're
I didn't realize how much was happening.
I hear it. I hear it, yeah.
And especially today, because we did one last night.
Look, I was born in Woodlawn Hospital, Brooklyn, all right? Yeah. Yes. Let me stop it.
It's a lot. It's running out here to live again. how are people supposed to, again, buy houses, accumulate wealth, try to be
To be self-sufficient.
Yes.
Very difficult when you are not given the full sustenance.
Because if you get a house for it. You get the apartment, how do you save it? At least by
Well, and to get an apartment, you have to have like 3 months money or something saved up. I'm like,
Not including vacation, water.
well, and to turn all that stuff on too. What I didn't realize, and it's happening in a couple of Virginia Beach neighborhoods I know because I've seen it, like the schools talking about it, smart, how many families are living in like one house.
Yeah.
So like, you know, now, and not even like multi-generational families, but 2 families who have said, I can't afford a house, let's get a house together. And
You live upstairs, I'm in the
and that's happening, and that's how people are having to adapt. But then the schools are getting overcrowded in some of these areas because they were designed for how many kids or how many houses are in there. But now there's more kids, and it's like I've never thought about something like that. But that's happening. I mean, I joke all the time with my girlfriend. I'm like, our husbands are like,
I already had that conversation.
I'm like, I think have this work together. I am trying hard to make my neighborhood. I'm like, we should go back to our commune days. You want to make dinner? I'll make dinner. I see. Yeah.
I think people in that area, we have such a I was talking to somebody the other day about the time that people each other's kids and so forth, and I said, well, they're doing this, and I know my community was like, okay, who's got something? Who's got right. Yeah, I was like, where's the people on my board? Yeah, you know, well, we got to with this group, we got to with this group,
we very much away from that's what that it's like your baby's your problem. It is. It's not. And but I mean, I think too, you know, the infrastructure, a lot of that's been taken away. You know, now you can't walk to school. Like I could not walk my kids to school after I lost surgery. That's like what it is.
That is true. You can't do that.
And in certain places, you can still be, but not.
Yeah, unless you like live a lot away.
Sorry, I
Very like they have to ask people about that.
You see that it's like a TikTok or like Insta, it's like the sometimes you have to I don't know, so you just walk out. I mean, someone's parents were looking out the window, or if you got out, which I used to all the time say, we went off and I get out of eyesight.
Okay, y'all, just be mindful of your time. We're a few minutes out, and it really looks like we might go 5 minutes over if you could just bear with me. So I'm going to ask you one more question. Okay, easy. Takeaways and wrap up, right? Did you learn anything? Are you inspired or curious to learn or engage with anything additional? Based on these conversations, and this is kind of a big question, and I want you to know this as well as our other questions. You're not, like, you are not trapped in this room with your ideas. You have my email, you have my contact information. Please use it. Please let me know. Please let Lauren know. Please let Malia know. Let us know if these things continue to come up for you. But what does a successful CAC look like a year from now? Honestly, this is the question I would really like to always think about, is what does that look like for you? What comes to mind? It doesn't have to be perfect or pretty, but what does a successful CAC look like for you? I'll give you 5 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and close out, because I'm sure some of you are like, okay, I gotta get home before traffic hits.
I think for me, I think on a very basic level, I think it's just like community like a symbiosis in a way, so it's like they know us.
I did not realize it was.
Yeah, man, like
community advocate.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, just from a logistical, do you think that it would, there would be better turnout if it was at a different time? If you had these at 5 o'clock, 5 to 7 on a day, would you have more people that couldn't make it because they're working come out for these things? I know it'd be an issue for staff and stuff like that, but like a different time slot.
Even if it's like a community, like a Saturday, like once every other month or something like that. So like, yeah, but I think even like, again, like I said, like a lot of things are here for word of mouth. A lot of people do a lot of different things. But even if we're going in the communities and we're talking about the organization, like having a presence, people know like, hey, I'm running HRT and very and
Thank you. People are reaching out to HRT and by way of this, so like people might not feel comfortable going up to the show. And I was like, oh, I know Sarah at the CAC.
I think from a time perspective, because I do a lot of public meeting planning, and I have not find a sweet spot.
Yeah.
So you think you're going to find so people always think like from 5 to 7, I'm getting the people who don't work. No, you're getting the people who are in this room who's going to take 2 hours off work, who aren't going to come at 5 and 7 o'clock because they've worked a full day. Not the people who you want to get who are probably working 6 to 8, or like your people who come to a public meeting typically are working, or who were the underserved population, the working population we're trying to get. They're not getting off work
as well. Right.
They're not going to work at 9 o'clock. They're working 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. and then probably going home, getting a quick nap, getting their kids, and then going on to the second shift.
Especially
and plus, if we're talking about folks who are transit or bike or walk dependent, they are taking much longer to get where they need to go. They're more physically
HRT stops most service around 7 p.m. So in Chesapeake, most stops at 7.
I think, not to be wrong, but I think isn't there like a shuttle that runs kind of like it's going from like
the 7-5, it depends on the city. So Chesapeake shuts down at 7.
Yeah, Norfolk's usually runs
Norfolk's pretty late, and then the 757 Express does the longer one. But it is, so we did a series of public meetings with HRT to try and get people, nobody can know. And the reality is like, people don't have, when you're talking about people who are working to make things and to justify and to do that, they don't have time to come to, they surely don't have time to take public transit, which takes 2 hours to come to a meeting.
How you getting there?
Yeah, so I think the focus is to be meeting people where they're at.
Big regional events, having attendance there, I mean, I think we're having a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
So HRT had a community advocate, I forget specifically, and we did all these surveys. She got on the bus, filled like 100 surveys, just filled that next few months on the bus. Hey, how you doing? And that's how almost all the surveys came in from someone.
You get a QR code on all the HRT.
No, they don't want a QR code. They do not want a QR code because they don't want to use their phone.
Yeah, because like everyone doesn't have like mobile data. That's
but most people have it, but they don't. But if how many times do you start a survey on your phone and not write it? But if you sit someone sit next to you and ask you the questions and say,
and it's also like face-to-face, like it's more like people have surveys at people. So like let's throw another survey on your plate. Now let's have like more face-to-face like dialogue.
I feel like it's almost like how can we as representatives of our cities
That's not a little question.
So let's find the people who don't have time to come to this meeting, but they love to be here, get their thoughts, and then
I think maybe taking it from the local conversation representative so there's your city, HOA, civic leagues, whatever, and say like, oh, you would be a great addition to
Scouting.
Yeah.
I think more more not-for-profits, like YWCA and Fortis and
Right.
the people who
Not my
the
necessity, but
people who want to come to the meetings, but can't come to the meetings. Like, I think having those,
Yes.
and it's unbiased, it's unpolitical, it's un-city, like, I think we need more. I'm you have a YWCA for sure, and that's why I'm guessing. But I mean, I think
The balance, right? Because we want the technical, but we also want the lived experience as well.
Correct, but you'd rather somebody rather.
Yes.
we did one with HRTPO. We've done several rec centers, nobody came. I've done one
Is that like with rec centers that make sometimes, like they're partnering with other programs, so they're trying to like get the kids there?
Yeah, where they're already, the kids are already there.
We did one thinking that we could get the parents who picked up we did it during pickup time.
That's not gonna work. I saw it. Because I'm like, let me just say,
Well, same.
because I'm already
Frazzled and you want to get home.
I'm so sorry. I'm about to be so out of capacity.
No, I agree.
However, let me introduce someone. Right. Like, listen, you live in 7-5, I live in 7-5. What are you, if this happens, what's concerning you? And I think that way it's like, you guys like, I think people are more.
Yo, I'm so sorry to wrap us up. If I could get us wrapped up so that we can close out. Madam Chair, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you so much.
Put some up in a break room.
For the sake of time.
For the sake of time, because we're starting to lose so many people.
Okay, so for the sake of time, let me get my agenda out in front of me if I have it.
You can borrow mine.
I think it's item number 12 on our agenda. Looking at the next upcoming meetings, flip to that page. We're meeting August 13th. We're meeting at the Port of Virginia Norfolk office. On the agenda right now for that is an introduction and briefing from the port and the 2027 legislative agenda update.
You do want to, I'm so sorry, Madam Chair, if I may. You want to be there for the legislative agenda update. We are one of the few regions in Virginia that cooperate among 17 localities to send shared priorities to your state legislators that then go through the assembly. If you're not part of the process and you are not able to provide your input, your voice isn't there, you're not engaged. So you do want to be there for that meeting. Sorry, Lauren.
We were asked the question on the address for the Port of Virginia, and I will get that for y'all.
We'll make sure to get that up.
Yep. And October 8th, we're meeting at HRCAC, the Hampton Roads Community Action Program. That is on the peninsula side. We're doing a briefing from them. They're an incredible organization if you're unfamiliar. We're also going to do coastal storm risk management study and flooding and resilience in Hampton Roads. And then we'll have December 10th, a meeting as well with the agenda forthcoming, but we'll be doing an outlook into 2027. On a personal note, I did want to mention that I greatly appreciate all of you that had a great discussion about what the future of CAC looks like. Also wanted to mention that we are really looking at how we can tie in our locations and our topics together. That's something Juan, Malia, and I are really looking at. And the other thing we wanted to briefly mention is if there was anyone interested in potentially being part of our CAC subcommittee on membership, that is reviewing applications for those that are interested in joining the CAC, please let Juan, myself, or Malia know. We are looking for some individuals that want to take part in that subcommittee as well.
You got to handle it.
I'll help.
Thank you. Appreciate you. And moving on to agenda item number 13, any old or new business?
Yes, the Virginia Environmental Justice Council does have a meeting coming up this month. That is on the DEQ website, but I'll also send the information for that out to you all. Very important, very relevant to a lot of conversations we've had here. A quick update about Sail 250 and Juneteenth for Norfolk. So at our Regional Transit Advisory Panel meeting, or RTAP as many of you may know it, we had a meeting and the topic came up in short. Tall ships mean different things to different people. Having that celebration at the same time of the 250th celebration at the same time as Juneteenth, brought up a lot of different just sentiments throughout the community. And so as a follow-up to that, Mr. Bob Crum, myself, actually our Vice Chair Malia, Dr. Claudine Kazar, Ms. Janice Taylor, who is also the chair of the HRT Paratransit Committee, because there were not very many accessibility considerations as part of that planning, all engaged with the city of Norfolk, and they have been able to make some progress there. They're also forming a Juneteenth advisory committee for future celebrations, and we also submitted forth some insights onto a proposed proclamation, and there was a community meeting that happened. But that is a great example of how, like, even though we meet here in this space as a CAC, there are these other committees that happen, topics of discussion may come up there. If there's an item that comes up that you're like, hey, we need you, Quan, as our liaison to follow up on this, please let me know. That is what I'm here for, and we are able to connect with, I brought it to our executive director, Mr. Bob Crum's attention. He immediately got in contact with the city manager for Norfolk, and then we had a meeting scheduled shortly thereafter. And we've had progress in motion from that. So I really just want to encourage you all, use us as your regional planning entity. But that is my last update. I know we're short on time, so you motion for adjournment.
We're going to motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion? So moved.
Who was that, Brad?
Brad.
Okay, second?
Yes,
Carolyn? Okay, thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.